Good evening. Call a meeting of October 17th, East Providence City Council to order. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a brief executive session tonight according to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5.
Mr. President, excuse me 1 second. You need to call the roll.
Okay, we'll do the roll first. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll of the council?
Councilman Fogarty.
Here.
Councilman Lawson.
Here.
Council Vice President Rigo.
Here.
Councilwoman Sousa.
Here.
Council President Rodrick.
Here. The record show all five are present. Thank you, Councilman.
Sure.
So we have 42-46-5A and 2, some new claims and sewer abatements per usual. Is there a motion to go into executive?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilwoman Sousa. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. We'll return shortly.
Let me see if I'm sorry.
Resume the meeting. Motion is in order to seal the minutes of executive session.
Moved.
Councilman Lawson makes the motion, seconded by Councilman Fogarty to resume the regular meeting and seal the minutes of the executive session. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The consent calendar, Madam Clerk, might as well get that out of the way.
We have 3 notices of new property. You have the option to bundle, and we have 11 licenses, and then the 12th item is an annual renewal of the miscellaneous licenses.
Yeah, I believe the consent calendar is just the letter A.
Make a motion to accept these consent.
Motion made by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilwoman Souza. Accept the letters in the consent calendar. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. So without objection, at this point, I would like to move up in deference to the department heads, administration who have assembled, that we finish the budget process. And then the rest of the meeting is fairly routine. Is here. Okay, we're waiting for Ami to come, and I guess she's here. Hi there. So we do have one brief presentation, and glad you made it. And then we'll go on to the budget. I would ask Councilwoman Souza if you want to introduce the guest.
So, good evening and thank you, everyone. East Providence is a unique community where we have wonderful, amazing educators in our school departments. And this year we were fortunate enough to have not one, but 2 teachers recognized for their outstanding accomplishments and dedication to the youth in our school and their love for teaching and for nurturing and really mentoring our young children in our communities. Tonight, I would like to present a proclamation of recognition to one of those educators. The award is the Teachers of the Year Award. This program was initiated in 1952 by President Dwight Eisenhower, and it was to recognize the importance of teachers in their role as nurturers to the youth in the American dream, in pursuit of the American dream. The Governor McKee, our Lieutenant Governor Matos, our Commissioner Alexandra Infante Green, our Superintendent Sandra Ferrante, our previous year's Teacher of the Year, Lisa Leahy, all had the opportunity to first announce at White Neck the award recipient, Ami Kutu, as Rhode Island's 2024 Teacher of the Year. Ms. Kutu holds a bachelor's in fine arts from the University of Rhode Island and a bachelor's in science and elementary education from Rhode Island College. She began her career here in East Providence, teaching preschool through 2nd grade. She began her career in teaching preschool and 2nd grade and then came to East Providence and teaches at our White Neck Elementary School, where she has taught 4th and 1st grade for the past 14 years. So without further ado, I'd like to recognize Ms. Ami Kutu, our 2024 Rhode Island Teachers of the Year Award, recognized by the City of East Providence City Council. Thank you for all you do. We truly and gratefully appreciate your loving.
And Ms. Kudo, if you would come forward, please. We have one question for you. Now, as you know, city councils can be divided. we voted 3-2 on the pronunciation of your first name. And I'm not going to divulge the outcome of that vote. Could you please officially tell us, is it Amy or Ami?
It's on May.
I told you, see? Rigo was saying Amy. Would you like to say anything?
I'm honored to represent all the amazing teachers in our state, especially here at East Providence. I'm just a first grade teacher who loves her job, and I get to be the face of all the teachers this year. I look forward to being the voice for all of them and continuing this journey and learning from teachers now around the country.
Thank you very much. Sure.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay. Thanks. Congratulations. Good job. Thank you, Councilwoman, sponsoring that. And so this time, without objection, I would direct us to page 7 on our docket and open up the public hearing ordinance for first and final passage and second passage for public discussion and possible vote. We've certainly been through the budget process, through a lengthy workshop process, and then final setting up the final vote. So at this time, it is open to public discussion. I would start first with members of the council. You want to add anything before we open it up to the floor? Good. No, I have nothing to add. You've certainly said enough before. Hearing nothing right at the moment, I would open it up to public discussion with those here present. Anyone wish to make a comment? Once again, I'll ask if anyone wants to comment on this budget. Please come forward, give your name and address.
Nancy Hale, 889 Bullocks Point Avenue. I just want to say I'm glad the positions at risk of being lost were not lost. I would say the planning department is great and they have a lot of work ahead of them. I don't think we could afford to lose any of them. And that goes for Napoleon also.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else on the council? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. And Mr. Solicitor, there are two parts of this. Could you read the first?
So to be consistent with our past practices, I'd like you to vote on the changes, on the explanation of the proposed council changes. Each one of those, so there's a record that that's what the budget will reflect. And then once those amendments are made, you will pass number 2. But before you pass number 2, you should indefinitely postpone number 1, which was the mayor's original budget.
Correct. So number 1 should be
A motion to postpone indefinitely.
postpone indefinitely, table.
Indefinitely. Yep, table indefinitely.
The motion is in order to table indefinitely the ordinance, and the number is 219-664-964. Motion was made by Councilman Lawson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Souza. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Fogarty,
Aye.
Councilman Lawson,
Aye.
Council Vice President Rego.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza,
Aye.
Council President Rodrick.
Aye, passes 5-0. And part two is the actual ordinance of the council appropriating $218,914,964 for the support of city government for the fiscal year ending October 31st, 2024. Is there a motion?
So, Council President, I'm asking that you, you look at the bottom of that ordinance. There's an explanation of proposed council changes from the last hearing. And I'd like the record to reflect that we vote on each one of those changes so that the numbers will be reflected in the new amended budget.
Okay,
Now, you voted to propose them last week for this public hearing, and now the public hearing is over. Now you actually vote to implement them. That's what we did the last time too.
because I don't have that list in front of me.
In the ordinance,
It's right in the ordinance, okay.
it's under section, yes, that's how we,
Read each one.
yes. Just like we did last time.
So, Madam Clerk, if you could do that, and then I would entertain a motion on each.
And then we'll vote for the budget as a whole,
Item.
as amended.
When that's concluded, correct, then we'll do the budget as amended. So, Madam Clerk, if you could proceed.
An addition of 311,647, line item 58522 to debt service department 905.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Souza, seconded by Councilman Lawson. Should we do the roll call, or is it?
To you, you can do
I
it.
think all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No opposed? That passes. Next, please.
A transfer of $150,328 from 51201 overtime public safety communications to 51110 regular salaries.
Motion is in order.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilwoman Souza. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have that, 5-0. Next.
A rejection of $175,000 from Department 900 Legal Services miscellaneous line item 53402.
Motion.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilwoman Souza. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have that. Next.
A reduction of $152,347 from 900 Legal Services, Other Professional Services, line items 53403.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Souza, seconded by Councilman Lawson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
A decrease of capital by 3,000.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilwoman Souza. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Completes the itemizations. So now a motion would be in order on the total budget for the fiscal year ending October 31st, 2024, the number that was previously read. Is there a motion?
If there's no further discussion, I'll make a motion, we approve.
Without discussion, motion made by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilwoman Souza. Please call a roll.
Councilman Fogarty.
Aye.
Councilman Lawson.
Aye.
Council Vice President Rego.
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza.
Aye.
Council President Rodrick.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Okay, thank you all. Thank you for a lengthy process. Thank you to the administration, mayor, department heads. It's a long process. We will revert back to the regular order of the docket, Madam Clerk.
You have an option of a motion to bundle licenses C1 to C12.
I got one question about item 12. Give me an idea of some of those miscellaneous.
Yes, the miscellaneous, so go ahead, Madam Clerk, is that the renewal?
It's like a bundle of a bunch. I just want a general sense of what kind of licenses these are.
It's all licenses excluding alcoholic beverage licenses that are not new. They're not 1 day. So all new licenses, all 1 day licenses, and all licenses involving alcohol would come before the council. This is something that's done annually, and it authorizes the clerk's office to approve renewals in good standing. So they still
These are the
have-
renewals, correct?
Yep. So
Yeah, they've already been vetted by the police and fire and any necessary agency. They've been approved prior, so they're not new, and it's an annual process. So
Just wanted to get a general idea.
Convenience stores, any laundromats, anything like that. So, you know,
correct.
so they've already been have they been vetted by the police, fire, and Department of Health or any agency?
As they come in,
The renewals.
as the renewals come in, yes. They won't be authorized to approve them unless they got subject to all meeting all legal.
Well,
requirements.
subject to all those.
So you can put that in the motion just to make yourself more comfortable, but yes, subject to meeting all legal requirements. But it is convenient, so the person doesn't have to wait till the next council meeting to get it done.
So I'll make a motion to bundle C1 through C12. Subject to meeting all legal requirements.
Second that motion.
Motion by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilwoman Souza to bundle all license C1 through C12, subject to all requirements. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Motion
The
to
ayes have it.
approve C1 through C12 as long as they meet all requirements.
Second.
Motion to now approve those licenses that were bundled, C1 to C12. Motion by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilwoman Souza. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have that. Thank you. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Under communications, we have Nancy Hale, how behaviors of city residents can save DPW money.
All right, I'm going to change the topic just a little bit because prior to the meeting, I talked with Dan Borges as well as Napoleon. So I'm going to go over some of these ideas before I bring them to the podium. Because some of them will be very bad and it's a waste of time to, not all communication should be done from the podium. However, I would like to talk about an elephant that's not been in the room, which is what I began to talk about last time I was here. Reading from this book. The book is titled The Future We Choose, Surviving the Climate Crisis. It's written by Christiana Figueres and Tom Rivet Karnak are the co-founders of Global Optimism, an organization focused on bringing about environmental and social change. They have worked closely with key campaigners supporting efforts to ameliorate the consequences of climate change, among them Greta Thunberg, Al Gore, Leonardo DiCaprio, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Jane Goodall, David Attenborough, and Robert Redford. So this goes along with, I'm just going to say being green. And this will come together in a few meetings, but I can't make it all come together in a few minutes from the podium. And so it's going to result in what asking not what your city can do for you, but ask what residents of East Providence can do to ease DPW. So it involves like using less plastic, refusing to buy it in the first place. If you do get plastic stuff, reuse it as much as you can, then recycle it. So if we produce less trash, basically, this is the kind of goal, less trash, less recycling, more efficient, less expensive DPW on that matter. So that's it for now. It's kind of an introduction. And I actually think if we did reduce, our trash basically by 50%, and that reduces the cost, I mean, that, we're done with the budget, you get what you get, you don't get upset. But then you can save money, figure out how to reduce expenses. This is one way, and it would be very good for the bay because we have about 2 inches of microplastics, which are paving the bottom of the bay. That's very disappointing.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Appointment to the Library Board of Trustees, Paulo Silva, sponsor Councilwoman Souza.
I make a motion to approve Mr. Paulo. He has been on the Board of Trustees for many years, serving, doing good work, and he has reached out with continuous interest in continuing to serve and do the work that the board has been doing to maintain the wonderful libraries that we have throughout our city.
Thank you. Motion by Councilwoman
Second.
Souza, seconded by Councilman Lawson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I think we have, as clerk will read, there are a couple more. There should be a few more coming up as library trustees' terms are expiring. So we'll have a couple more probably at the next meeting, but we have some
No, I appointed
tonight.
one of our first or second meetings. So are
Right.
they all up this year for reappointment?
Most are up in October, right, this year. The next one, Madam Clerk,
Appointment
next
to the-
trustee is
Appointment to the Library Board of Trustees, Margaret Marcotte, sponsored by Councilman Fogarty.
Councilman.
Yes, good evening. Mrs. Marcotte did reach out to me. She's been on the board. It is coming up for expiration. If you'd like to continue her services for libraries trustee, and I'm happy to have her. She does a great job.
Motion by Councilman Fogarty,
Second.
second by Councilman Lawson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passes. Mrs. Marcotte, retired principal in the city, and appreciate her volunteerism. And looks like one more, Madam Clerk.
Appointment to the Library Board of Trustees, Pat Armstrong, sponsored by Council Vice President Rigo.
Council Vice President.
Thank you, Council President. I'm going to reappoint Pat Armstrong. She's been very active in the library community. She does a really good job. She's dedicated to the cause. So I move that the reappointment of Pat Armstrong.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Rigo, seconded by Councilman Lawson for Mrs. Armstrong. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. And we'll have, I think, a couple more. There may be a new slot. I think one person is going to retire from the board. And they do excellent work for volunteers and keeping our libraries vibrant. Well, you know, we all appreciate that. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Group home autism signage on Roger Williams Avenue. Discussion, Council Vice President Rigo.
Would like to just interrupt for 1 second. I know we did the licenses and bundled, and there may be some folks here in the room. Those were passed, so you don't have to stay here if that's what you're here for. You're welcome to stay with us until midnight or however long we're here. But the licenses were all approved tonight, so if you're here for those particular, I just wanted to make that clear. Let you know. Did you have? Yes, includes that too. You're welcome.
Thank you for
Thank you.
coming.
No, you're welcome to stay. Okay.
It's the block party.
Thank you, Mr. Solicitor, for the reminder there. I'm sorry, Councilman Rigo, were you up?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, there's a new group home on Roger Williams Avenue, and I'll have the specific address to here. It's a group home for autistic children, and they've reached out to myself, and I think they reached out to you as well, Council President, as
Yes.
being the at-large council person. And similar to signs where there's children that might be deaf or having any other special needs. This group home's requesting that there be signage on Roger Williams Avenue notifying traffic that there is autistic children now in the neighborhood. So, Mr. Solicitor, we have to put this in an ordinance, or can we just have DPW make the sign?
Make a sign, okay. It could be like,
Yeah.
you know, the signs that might say deaf child, or this might say autistic children.
I think we've worked on something.
Yeah.
like that previously.
So I'll get you the exact ad.
Why don't you come up and explain it so we'll get it on the record? Thank you.
Yeah, if you just give me the exact address, we have, as part of our sign request form on the city's website, we have a, particular sign that, you know, reads autistic children at play. That
Okay.
use that other, communities throughout the country have adopted. So that's
Well,
kind
I'll
of,
get you the address. It's in the 300s. I
Yeah.
think.
if you can just send me the address, I can have them printed and.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, are your officers, do they get specialized training for? Okay. And you're aware of all the locations of all the various group homes and stuff?
This is Brand. I'll get you the address. It's Brand. They reached out to us, so I didn't know if they had already reached out to your department, and so as well as the fire department.
So for those watching, the questions are being directed to the chief of police, and he will get included too with the new address. He's responding that he was not aware of this as a new.
Jill, can you pull a list of all registered, just so we can verify that they got all the info they need? Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, chief. So I think no formal action is needed. We'll get that address forward. Next item.
Not a traffic ordinance, right?
Right. Thank you. Number 2, is it, Madam Clerk? You want to?
Fence at Glenline Field discussion, sponsor Council Vice President Rego.
Councilman?
Thank you, Mr. President. I've been approached by the neighbors who live behind Glenline Field. This fence was put in place probably over 20 years ago by the former recreation director. It was at the time when Glenline Field was redone and reconfigured with a soccer field, and there's netting there. And the city has always maintained it. The issue now that I see, and I requested, can you bring up the photos, Kelly? Okay. So everybody can see what I'm talking about. This is the portion of Glenline Field that abuts Myron J. Francis School. And having walked there many times and walked there recently, the fence is getting in bad shape, or is in bad shape now. We really need to act on it, not because of the soccer balls going into the neighbor's yard, which would be a pain. But my biggest concern here is the security of children at Myron J. and also children at Glenline Field. We always say, you hear things on TV and you always say it's never going to happen in my community. But you know what? Things happen in every community. That fence falls down. And even though it's the greatest staff up there teaching at Myron J., a kid could wander, and they're special needs kids. And Howell Ridge Road connects right to Wilson Avenue. You could have a predator watching that school in a blink of the eye take this child away, and it's a great escape route. So it's not so much for the aesthetic or for the neighbors, which I think has been a little chatter in the city. Yes, it's for their privacy because many years ago they did it, but I'm saying we have money in the capital budget for Glenline Field. We need to fix that fence for the security of those children at Glenline Field, but more importantly for the children at Myron J. Francis. I guess my presentation didn't work. Oh, you got it? Okay. So thank you.
So I guess
just
maybe
wanted to
those at
show-
home viewing can
yeah,
see it. We can't. Okay, that's okay. So,
I just sent the photos in because I wanted to have my fellow council people see what we were talking about and where it is and everything. It's, if you're familiar with Glen Line, it's at the end of the field that's right in the background of Myron J.
Councilman, how much is left in the funds for the capital improvement for that? Do we know? Is it enough to?
There's over, I mean,
in the Glen Line account.
this is a wood picket. I mean, again, I haven't had a fence done. in-
Well, why don't we do this, because we're not doing a formal vote. Could if you have, do you want the city clerk, or if you want to send an email to administration or to Mr. Borges and see if they can repair, replace, and how much money is left in the Glen Line capital account? What's the dimension? What's the length of, off the top of your head?
We'll have to wait for the picture.
Dave, do you know how?
Dave, do you know?
Well, sure. Dan, thank you.
So it's probably
That's right.
50 to 100 feet of fence. It abuts Glen Lyon Field. My understanding is that, 10 plus years ago, there was some sort of agreement made with the property owners to have this fence installed, and I believe the Parks Department did install it. We are under the opinion that this should not be replaced using city funds. It's not, it's, similar to with a Riverside Rec Field or Kent Field. It's a private person's fence. So we don't feel that we should be repairing the fence of, a property owner. The Myron J does have a dedicated fence for the play area, chain link fence that, protects the children. But if the council so chooses to pay for fence replacement for, private fence, we can certainly look at the costs to do so. But you're probably looking at, anywhere between $75 and $100 a linear foot prevailing wage, because we have to pay prevailing wage to a contractor to have this done.
So, Dan, the confusing thing to me is you say that, and I know this predates your appointment here, that city workers install this fence, but you're also saying that it's personal property owners.
So I think there's some mixed information, and unfortunately, we don't have that information. The property owners, who like this fence repaired, claim that there was some sort of agreement between the city and the property owners to install said fence. We have not been able to find anything in the law department or, any files that we have. We've requested that same information from the property owners, and they haven't been able to provide any sort of agreement. So unfortunately, I can't speak for the superintendent of parks at the time that this was installed, nor do I really know the details behind the installation. But, we feel that this is a similar situation to another piece of city property that abuts private property, particularly, the rec fields, Riverside Rec, Kent Field, and Kent Heights. There are private residents that abut these, city properties with their own
But
fences.
let's say like Kent Field and Riverside Rec in particular, I'm picturing the long line of picket fencing.
Yeah. Yep.
The city didn't install those. Those homeowners did. Isn't this a little different in that the city,
Again, I don't.
or you're
know-
saying you can't verify
I
that?
can't verify whether we installed it or not, and that's sort of the tricky part. Do we spend money on a fence that is technically private fence? If we just compare it to other fields in the city.
So one of the abutters is here without objection to the council, if you want to allow him to
So
speak.
you're not worried about the security aspect that I just talked about with the kids at Myron J. Francis and that road? You're not worried about that at all?
I mean, how would the kids access this? I'm just not sure I follow that.
How
You seem to think Francis was
Okay.
enclosed.
How quickly a kid wander? I mean, I know your kids are younger, but they can see where that is right now. It only takes a second. It only takes a second for a bad person to be on that side of the fence and grab a kid and take off. That's what I'm saying.
So that opening that we see, is that the bulk of the damage? that opening?
The whole fence is in,
Whole
The whole
fence.
fence, right?
the entire length of this fence.
We're talking we're talking 100 linear square feet. You said it's $75 a square. So we're talking like $7,500.
That's the last price we've had, you know, as of about a year ago. We haven't gotten updated fencing prices.
It almost comes back to, is a one rescue call good enough? I mean, 7,500 to maybe have a peace of mind that there's never an issue with kids. I will stand for that all day long.
Does the city, excuse me, through the chair,
Councilman Fogarty.
does the city always have to pay prevailing wage for? Always. Every contract you do outside of city work is
Every
prevailing
single-
wage.
Yes,
Yes. Dictated by who?
the state.
Bad law.
You and I can both agree on that one.
I can agree on a lot of stuff with you. Absolutely.
Do we have any surplus fencing in stock?
We'd have to
Buy.
purchase fence.
We have the funding for Glenline Field. We have a capital line.
We have the funding. The funding was, we were looking at potentially putting in lighting throughout that area. We have to resurface the basketball courts. We have to resurface the tennis courts. The fence surrounding the basketball and tennis courts is in disrepair. That really needs to be updated, and that's 10-foot fence. So that's even more expensive. Unfortunately, I don't have I can give you rough prices based on what we've, received in the past from contractors, but I don't have a rough dollar amount. But I can assure you that the money that's allocated for that project, could easily be spent. I mean, we just recently got a quote for LED light fixtures around that entire walking track for $90,000. So we're trying to come up with cost-effective approach to, maybe shrink that number in half and put in half the number of lights to make the money, go further.
So without objection, I would allow one of the abutters to come forward if you want to make a comment. Just give your name and address for the record.
Hi, Dave Balsafiore, 21 Hollow Ridge Road in Rumford. And I've been at that house since I took those pictures. I've been there since 1990. And we were approached by a former employee of the city, and the agreement was, we're going to put the fence in, we're going to maintain it. If you allow us to put in this tall, ugly netting to keep the balls out of the yard and the baseballs from coming through and breaking the pickets. And there was a letter and an agreement. And one of my next door neighbor has that agreement, and I think it was forwarded to the mayor. I can tell you that in December, that's last year's pictures. This year, December, when we had a windstorm, heavy winds, 4 sections came down in the back, which you can't see because it's a little further down there. In 2 of the sections, the post snapped off right at ground level. So a quick fix, my brother-in-law and I went to Home Depot and got some 7-foot wooden stakes, not only to try and make the fence stand upright, but also had to use them for the crossbars because they were rotting away. I mean, it happens. It happens every year. There's always a section going. I've got there's some newer pictures where you can see where we use the wooden stakes as crossbars and to prop up the fence, where the posts were snapped off at ground level. And you can see it goes down 4 sections. And also in addition for privacy, they planted those bushes you can see that are now overhanging the fence and pushing on the fence and further down. And I mean, that's it. Like I said, December, 4 sections down. We had to scramble in the winter just to try and stand them upright again because there was a 4-section gap where people could walk right through the backyards.
Why was this installed originally? Because of the use of the field
Yes,
and for the net to be attached to the fence.
the netting to be put up to
Right.
stop the balls. Yeah,
Going into
the
your
netting
property.
is separate from the fence.
Correct.
It's on the other side of those trees that you see. You can see the poles to the netting in those pictures.
So Dave, what do you estimate the length? Is it 100 feet or so? Is that what we're talking?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't have an estimation. I mean, it's usually,
They're 8-foot sections
yeah,
usually?
yeah, they're 8-foot sections.
So you were missing at least 4 were in trouble.
4 that are only being held up by those wooden stakes right now.
That's at least 32 feet of fencing. So I don't know, we, take money from capital and, the letter you sent to the mayor's office, who was that from? The letter?
Who, please?
You said there was a letter that you forwarded
There
to,
was an agreement sent to the mayor's office by my neighbor, Jim Bryden. He lives to the right of me. And he had the copy of the letter, and I think it was forwarded to the mayor's office.
We have it in the capital budget. We're gonna have excess money in this budget left over. Start with the agreement that was put in place by the former recreation director. And again, my biggest thing here is protection of kids. If we can't do that, then I don't know why we're here.
so Mr. Solicitor, let me ask you, the process here, if we want to fund something like this with capital, what would that entail? Can we look beyond the Glen Line fund? Because it sounds like from Director Borges that, he's got all he can do to get the lights and everything else we want at Glen Line with the money already appropriated. So I don't have the capital budget in front of me, is there?
We may have on unallocated capital.
Right,
Previous
should be unallocated
I assume there's money there.
funds. So why don't we going forward, let's at least ask if through DPW or another source, we get a price, something like this. Do we go out for bids? Do we just purchase? We'd have to go out to bid, so we'd have to find out how much we're talking, if it's 100 feet of stockade fencing, go out to bid, and then I'm sure there's unallocated funding.
I mean, time-
We can't go out and buy it tomorrow.
I mean, yeah, but time is of essence, as we know, as the calendar approaches November and December. This isn't exactly a project that you want to be doing when the ground is
Sure.
at its point. So, I mean, the quicker we can move on it, the better off it is and everything that we get this done. If not, we're talking about spring of 2024 before this situation.
I'll send in the morning, I will send in a memorandum to the administration, to the director of administration in the mayor's office, and ask him if he could forthwith at least start the process, talk to, and maybe Dan, you want to add something to this? And
I guess one to add, I haven't seen that agreement, so I'd like to see it. I mean, that would definitely be the first step. We did request that, and I'm not sure if it got lost in the shuffle, but
right,
I just did a quick takeoff here. We're looking at it. There are 2 properties that have stockade fence. I believe one of the abutting properties has replaced the fence themselves, or a small section of it, which I believe is 117 Washburn. 21 and and 17 both have stockade fence based on an aerial, and this is really rough estimates. We're looking at about 225 linear feet. This fence is not at a point where we can just replace 3 or 4 sections. It needs to be completely replaced. So you're looking at about $17,000, at prevailing wage, and that's assuming the price hasn't increased. And these are just ballpark numbers. I'd have to go back to fencing companies, and there's a potential we might have to actually go out to a formal bid because the price is fairly close to our bidding threshold, which is 25,000 in labor. So anything over 25,000 requires a formal bid process, bid package, specs, all that stuff. Anything below that, I can get 3 bids and go through the standard state procurement procedures.
Now, and when we wouldn't be looking to do wood again,
No, I would. So my thought is if we're going to be replacing this fence, we put in vinyl chain link, because that's going to be, if we're looking to replace this, we should not be putting stockade back, because it's just going to fall apart again. So, I mean, if we're going to replace the fence, let's do it the right way and replace it with chain link.
In the event that it does go over the or hits past the threshold for the procurement, would there be an option to maybe do it in sections? I know, Jen, that's not ideally what you wanted, but to keep it, to your point, moving quickly, if we try to do it in pieces?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak for fencing contractors. We'd have to reach out to them. Regardless, I'm going to have to get 3 quotes. Anything over $2,500 requires me to get 3 prices. So the first thing is going to be, doing that, but also availability of the fence. Everything is back ordered. And so availability, and not only that, but we're coming towards the end of the season. What's the availability of the contractor to actually get out there and put this fence I'll procure the 3 prices. I'll get the 3 prices and, have someone call a few fencing contractors, but I'm not even sure we can get someone to complete it in the next few months. I don't know what their workload looks like.
Through the chair,
Councilman Fogarty.
might be able to buy the product during the winter, store it, and then think about doing this in the spring. And do we have any workers available to do such work?
I mean, we have so many projects. We still have fencing that needs to be installed at the rec field. We've got a lot of capital projects that, I have, allocated staff to complete. I mean, Glen Lyon Field, in order to save a significant amount of money to the capital budget, we intend on utilizing our own equipment to auger all of the bases for the lighting there. So that'll save us a significant amount of money rather than going out to bid. So that project in itself is probably a few months worth of
Trying to do the
labor.
same.
Yeah,
So is it feasible to buy the product in the winter when it's?
I
no one
could buy the
buying it?
product, but I cannot promise that I could get this in even in the spring. I don't have the stat. We have so many
We
projects
can
that
hire more manpower then?
to install a fence. I
No,
don't
to
think
do
that's a
several
reasonable.
other jobs.
No, I don't think
Wouldn't
that
be feasible to hire more workers in the city to do the city work?
we'd have to increase the budget, and
Right.
I think
Shave
we
a
are
few
adequate.
other line items and
I think
maybe
we're
we could do that, get some workers from the
we've
city.
already added 2 positions that the council allocated last year, and we're in the
I'm just
very
trying
close to
save
hiring.
money, Dan. I'm
Uh,
just trying
no,
to save
I
money.
am as well. That's why I believe that we shouldn't have any responsibility to this fence.
I heard you. I agree with the councilman too, for the children over there, so. Thank you to the chair.
If I may, I think the
Yes.
reasonable thing, we'll see if we can find a contractor. Maybe we'll find a contractor that'll be able to do it in an efficient, and speedy manner, and we'll get in before the spring. At least let us try that first.
So first step is get pricing.
Yes.
And Mr. Solicitor, can you
I just want
get this letter, forward it to us? And
I want this done by spring. I'm sick. I don't want this kicking down. I don't want this being another can kicked down the street. The children of the city, and obviously in my ward, are my priority. If we don't stop prioritizing things, then shame on us. And don't tell me it can't happen in East Providence. That's what those people say in other cities and towns. Abductions. So if we're not gonna think about abductions and protecting our children, then I don't even know why you're in, why we're here. This is a security issue. Thank you.
One last word, Dave.
Just in regard to replacing this fence with a chain link fence, couple of issues. One, privacy for neighbors. Two, kids don't climb over a stockade fence. Not when the posts are facing, the poles are on the inside. Kids go over chain link fence. And I know as a kid, I've been hung up on it more than my fair share of chain link fence because, I can get over that and get the ball and whatever. I think I caught you too. But anyway, that's in talking with my neighbor, we'd already discussed a chain link fence and we just didn't think it was a good idea for those reasons.
Thank you for that.
Okay, so we'll start with getting some prices, and if this letter, I think the letter might be a letter from Mr. Bryden, not necessarily an original contract, but whatever it is, let's get it.
I think not to add to this conversation, but
Sure.
whatever this town does, city does at the time, we should probably memorialize such an agreement in the FET pass. Maybe we put it up this time and then let the property owners know that from this point forward, you're going to be responsible for taking care of the fence. This might be the fairest way to do it, but I'll leave that up to you.
Okay, so we'll start this week with at least getting some prices. And all right, thank you, Mr. Balsalfiore. Next item, please.
Requested report, street paving project, a list of street names. How many streets have been paved this year and how much was spent? How many streets since 2018, including miles, have been completed with the $10 million that was allocated by the 2016-2018 council? Receive report and possible discussion, Councilwoman Sousa.
Councilwoman, if you want, preface this with comments, or you want Mr. Borges to present his
He can,
list?
yeah, sure, he can come up and present.
Is this a list of the licenses? I thought it was a list of the roads. I am so sorry.
What's that?
I thought this was a list of the roads.
You should have that.
If I saw this earlier, I wouldn't have asked about the license. I am
Okay,
sorry.
You have the list of the streets, Council? Okay.
yeah, that's there also.
A lot of lists. All right, go ahead. Jen.
So I wasn't sure if I was going to make it tonight, but I'll give you a little brief overview. I did send the city clerk the information. I believe she probably printed for you.
You did, thank you.
So over the last from 2018 to I guess this past paving season, there have been about 222 roads for a total of 41 and just shy of 41 and a half miles paved in the city. To answer the question regarding roads paved this year, there were no roads paved this year for the reason that I had brought to the council a few probably months back at this point. We had applied for grant funding through the state's municipal road and bridge program. And I can say that as of 9/18, about a month ago, we received a signed contract with the state to receive an additional $675,858 that we will allocate to our, I guess at this point would be 2024 paving season. So the council approved the paving contract on 8/15. That was that had to wait until RIDOT gave us the okay once we had submitted the application. Once they gave us the okay, we signed that. We had the council, approve that contract. And then, as I mentioned, 9/18, we got the grant funding, or we at least got notified that we were going to receive those funds. So that leaves us about we have 1.2 million remaining, which will cover the paving list that I provided the council a few months back. And now we'll be able to pull from, you know, the reserve and pave an additional 675,000 worth of roads using the new unit bid pricing that we received from the contractor.
So, thank you for that, Dan. So just again, for the public to be aware, because I know that there's a lot of work going on in the community with the gas line. So roads that maybe weren't in the greatest grade of, disrepair now have been augmented and there's significant, changes to our roads. Those are going to be part of that ongoing list. I know the previous DPW director had a list that had graded all the streets throughout the city, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there was about 70 plus miles of city street in our city.
150.
150.
Yep,
100. So, we know that 40, though it's a good amount in the last 5 years, we're not even at the halfway mark, right? We're 130.
Yeah, if I can add to that, so we actually, and this is something that I plan to bring to the council, we're finalizing the report, but we did do a LiDAR scan of the entire city. So imagine the Google Maps vehicle with the camera on top that actually uses artificial intelligence and scans the road in 20-foot segments from essentially intersection to intersection. They provide an overlay map of all the potholes, identify cracking, and actually score each segment of roadway 0 to 100. And the city received a score citywide of 74, which is actually really good compared to other municipalities in the state. So we are doing a great job of maintaining our roads. We still have a significant number that, you know, we ideally would like to address in the next year. Then once we get sign off from Rhode Island Department of Health on our cleaning and lining project for the water main, there will be a significant number of roads that will be included from a paving standpoint on a lot of streets throughout actually Ward 2. So
So that's good work. And again, I'd like to thank the initiative of the council, past and current, for realizing this infrastructure need that needed to happen. If the $10 million wasn't allocated by that previous council, we wouldn't be at the 73% mark that we scored, that you're speaking of. So I think this, to the residents who are out there concerned, thinking every day that you're going up and down your street and it's horrible and you're shocked, your cars are being affected by it. We understand, we travel these roads too, but we can only work as fast as we can work. And we have other projects that are in the city also. So again, we had decided, or the city had spoken about, the gas lines needed to come in and be done. So we're not going to pave roads that are then going to be disrupted and not going to be made whole the way they would have initially.
we have monthly meetings with Rhode Island Energy. They do, you know, a ton of gas work throughout the city. They have, you know, additional gas work slated, you know, for the winter. And, you know, what we try to do is, you know, we obviously work with them. We present them our paving plan and say, hey, look, you know, we're doing these 10 roads. Can you please clear them? You know, ensure that gas has been replaced so that we're not ripping up brand new roads when the gas company comes in to put in a new main. So we actively work with them on a monthly basis to go through those roads and actually work with them to save the city money and utilize their funding source when they're, you know, removing a gas main to actually pave parts of our roadways, so that we're not actually utilizing capital funds. We're utilizing, you know, funds that Rhode Island Energy set aside to do restoration work throughout the city.
Well, thank you for that. So I was, again, just an update to everyone who's been asking about what's going on with the paving. Why hasn't my street been paved? If Rhode Island Energy hasn't been down your street to change your gas lines, your street's probably somewhere down the line, because there have been hundreds of streets that have been worked on who haven't still been paved completely, because we're not ready or there yet. So I appreciate the input, and I know I ask about this all the time. So I appreciate your patience also in addressing this, Dan. Thank you.
Chair, one sec.
Councilman Fogarty?
Do you guys work with the state roads, and do they communicate with you when they're doing their state road energy? And because I know DOT said that Pawtucket Avenue was scheduled for 26.
Correct. Yeah, we would have to look at the STIP.
All that work will be done. So you communicate with them and do the underlying
So
road.
we don't communicate unless we have utility work to do. We don't typically communicate with the state. The state has their own capital planning that they do. They obviously provide that information to the city.
On the crossroads that we own and they own, do we merge on that, make sure the utilities are done at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, typically when you're repaving, excuse me, you're not replacing utilities. Ideally, the utilities shouldn't have to be replaced.
Right, no, so
unless
I'm
it's
saying they're doing all that work on
Right.
their road, state and out. I know you're doing the process of energy first. Digging up the lines, gas, water, any utilities under.
right. Yeah, typically
You're
it's
merging
gas.
with that with the state. Because are they responsible for that main road
They
utilities?
are responsible for the drainage within the state roads. We have some sewer and some water main within state roads that we're obviously responsible for maintaining. But those don't require, they're typically less intrusive methods to rehabilitating a water main or a sewer main without having to dig up an entire road. You know, the city system was designed for, X number of capacity million gallons a day of sewage. Those pipe sizes won't have to typically
drainage.
change.
And drainage?
And drainage, yeah.
So you have a serious problem at Cumberland Farms across the street, both sides, and before the bridge at Mobile. That floods that right lane,
Right.
floods.
Yeah, and
And that's since that bridge has
that's
been
the-
done.
and
That's the state.
that
They
is the-
called on that, so they're doing that in 26.
hopefully they have some drainage improvements as part of that repaving.
Well, that's my concern through you, because
We can
what do
certainly
I
mention-
call every week myself? Because I don't mind being on the line.
Yeah, we have calls with DOT that they present us. Veterans Memorial Parkway
Right.
was slated to be paved this year. That was one of the roads that got delayed because of gas work. So gas work delayed that project a year. It'll get paved next year. But we do work with them. We know that there's flooding issues. Close to the Wachamoka pump station. We brought those up to DOT and they've actually actively been out there repairing those. Hopefully getting ready to pave it next year. Similarly for Willett Avenue, that project's a little further along than Tuckett. Once we receive design plans from DOT for review, and we provide them comments according to whatever they provide us. Line striping, whether they're going to be including bike lanes, so on and so forth. So we look at it from an engineering side, and we determine if there is utilities that are owned by the city. We ensure that we either inspect them or make any required repairs before they go in and dig those up.
Okay.
So we work closely with them as.
And I want to say also, thank you for taking care of Hazelwood. Thank you for taking care of the things that are mentioned.
Anytime.
It's much appreciated.
Happy to help.
Councilman Rigo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Roughly around the 21st of March of this year, you provided us a list of the roads that were going to be paved this year. So am I to presume that list, you broke it down by ward, those will be the roads, those will be the streets that will be started next year before there's an addition?
Yes.
And how many additional streets, since we got this grant from the state, how many more additional streets can you estimate?
I don't know because it depends on the street, the condition of the road, whether I need to reclaim it or whether I can mill and overlay it. There's a lot that goes into making that determination. So I don't know.
But the grant money that we received from the state should take care of all the roads on that, all the streets and roads that was on that list from the 21st of March.
No, the $1.2 million that we currently have allocated in capital will take care of the list that I provided the council.
Okay.
So in addition to that list, we have other roads in reserve that are, next in line that we would essentially bring up to include in that 1.2. So we have technically 1.8 million in roads that can be paid. But the roads that were on the list that I provided you will get done as part of the 1.2 we already had allocated.
The 1.2 we had allocated in fiscal year 23 budget, correct?
So yes, it was a rollover of 22, and it was also again, we work with National Grid on a monthly basis. They're paving roads for us, or in some cases we actually take a sum of money from them. They actually pay us to then utilize our contractor. 'Cause in some cases, it's more favorable for the city to pave certain roads if we have other work that needs to get done. So in some cases, we ask for reimbursement from Rhode Island Energy, and they cut us a check that then gets deposited to this paving contract account. So this 1.2 is a combination of monies that were allocated in capital, as well as reimbursement from Rhode Island Energy that we are utilizing to pave, the roads on the list I provided.
So if I'm understanding correctly, the list that you provided in March, no roads were done on that. But we had $1.2 million in capital available.
Yes, and what I had communicated to the council is that we could not spend that money until we had a signed contract with the paving contractor.
And
And in order to sign a contract with the paving contractor, we had to submit an application to Rhode Island DOT for their municipal road and bridge program. And we had to wait for their approval in order to do so.
just in case anybody, I just wanted you to say that, just in case people are, ask. I'm getting more issues with streets that people want to have paved. So I just wanted you to let the public know why there was a delay this year. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Dan, one question on the Rhode Island Energy, formerly National Grid. There seem to be several projects going on, in particular in front of Kent Heights School. And the sign that says bump, should probably say extreme bump. I mean, I've stopped and literally a mile an hour creeped and I still whacked that thing. And are we having a problem with gas leaks or is this routine work?
So that portion of Pawtucket Avenue is part of a larger project that Rhode Island Energy is working on. We actually had a meeting today with them here, and I brought that up to them. I said, it's bad. I mean, you got to slam on your brakes or else you're going to, damage your vehicle. So they're well aware of it. They're, ideally mobilizing a contractor very soon. But this portion of gas improvement is on a larger scale process to interconnect a few different distribution stations, high pressure distribution stations. And I'm not a gas distribution person, but I'll give you the brief synopsis. If you recall, about 2 years ago, Newport had a big gas outage and they were out for an extended period of time. What this gas work will do is ideally help link a high pressure system that they have. They're actually going to be running up almost all the way up Pawtucket Avenue to link an additional distribution system we have in, I believe, somewhere in Rumford, and connect it with a station in Riverside. And that'll kind of link everything to Aquidneck Island. I don't know how it all works, but yeah. So this is part of a larger scale project.
So we'll be safer in the long run.
Yeah, we'll have more reliability from a gas
Okay.
gas service standpoint.
So these aren't little leaks popping up all around the city. It's part
These
of
are
a,
larger scale planned projects that
Okay.
take years and years to engineer on Rhode Island Energy's side that they're now implementing.
okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Councilwoman, for bringing the issue up and proceed, Madam Clerk. Next item.
Harvest Fest planning discussion, Councilwoman Sousa.
Thank you. So as my colleagues may or may not remember, a few weeks ago, we allocated $1,500 from our 2023 budget to host a couple of holiday festivities, one being a Harvest Fest and then something in December around or about the holidays. So Harvest Fest is quickly approaching. We're going to be releasing the date. And so this was an opportunity for the council to come together and discuss when that was, locations that we were thinking about having it so we could get the planning process moving forward. I have, without, any objections, put on the table for November 12th. It's a Sunday, to have a Sunday afternoon. It is Veterans Day weekend, so that's why I think the Sunday is appropriate, because usually the Friday and Saturday there are a multitude of events already happening. Doing it in November kind of gets out of the way of all of the October fests that are going on, trick-or-treats, trunk-or-treats, all the fun activities that the city and other community organizations are doing, and this kind of catches everybody right before Thanksgiving, and going into their school break. The locations that I had in mind were Hull Street Park area or Pierce Field. Doing a little bit of thought, I think maybe Pierce Field is better suited given that it has restrooms, there's ample parking that's off street, and it was successful last year when I had my previous event there. So I think that's a continually good location, and it is central to pretty much most of the city. Things for the event, the usual stuff, arts and crafts that I think the children really enjoy: face painting, pumpkins for children to decorate in addition to regular arts and crafts, and then some other games or fun activities, including some music. So reaching out to different vendors and working with our city clerk to get our permitting in place through the city so that we have the event, and then obviously putting it out on social media or in a post in the journal or the reporter or the post, the weekly post, just to get some momentum out there for the public to know that after October, we still have some fun stuff going on in the city that it'll be able to attend. Obviously, weather permitting, it'll be a little bit colder, but we love the fall stuff, so it'll be fun. So I just open that up
Sounds
to
good.
any ideas, suggestions, thoughts from my fellow council members.
Patriots play in the morning, so it works out good. They got a game in Germany, so they're on at 9:30.
AM?
No excuse
Yeah.
then for you.
Wow.
Yeah.
No excuse anyways, no.
Oh, I looked at that first.
So we have 8 season tickets. It's painful, but it was fun with Tom Brady.
I am all about the public community get-togethers. I mean, when you talk face to face with others, you see a facial expression, you get a better sense of being able to communicate with our fellow townies. So I'm all in for these type of events, and whatever you need from me, let me know.
I'm all in. Whatever you need from me,
It's a
I'm
great idea. You take
great location.
initiative. And you did mention something about a spring one too, possibly.
I think, well, we'll get through the winter ones first.
Because I, just for the record, I think the great one for springtime to raise money for a charity is a dunk tank with the council president being in the.
Yeah.
Those are very
Yeah.
successful.
Great idea.
I'm busy that weekend.
November 12th.
We'll say it's a game at
Yeah.
Pierce Field that you'll show up.
He'd make the most money from his friends.
I think it'll be
Yeah.
fun.
No, but
From you guys.
I think this is a great idea as far as taking the initiative to have a fall fest and
Did you say Napoleon in the dunk tank?
oh, he wants me in a dunk tank. But
Well, these are all good ideas. I agree with Councilman Lawson that the social events and really bring people together and put the politics and government aside for several hours. And so anything you need, Councilwoman, let us know, and we'll get the word out and do some work. Thank you.
maybe you can hire a
Yeah.
decent band, maybe.
Yeah, we
And
have,
we'll have better communication on food trucks this time.
yes, thank you, please. No, there'll be a lot of good vendors that'll be invited to come out, and I think working, as a group, more can get done, right? There's strength in numbers, so I anticipate last year's event was amazing. We had a great turnout and it was a lot of fun, and I expect this year's to be, 100-fold. So
Just speaking of that, because it was just a thought of a not cheap, but a low price vendors in the range of like family setting vendors if there's prices involved.
Mhm.
My thought. Not too exorbitant.
for the
just an
food trucks,
idea
you
for
mean?
Food or,
Oh, right.
yeah, not to break a family's bank.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, yeah,
not what
no,
we're
it's a
here
day,
for.
it's a day out to have
Yeah,
fun,
okay.
right?
Yeah,
I mean, if I need to bring a grill and cook some hamburgers, I will too.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Next item.
Police roof contract update from legal. Discuss, Council President Roderick.
Oh, thanks. I think I had just asked a couple of meetings ago and we had the discussion on the progress of the roof at the police station. There might be some questions about the contract, and I don't know if you had a chance.
I did. So just to give you a quick timeline, and I think the police chief is here, and Dan. So the original request for proposal was posted on 3/15/2023. The bid opening was on 4/11/2023. council by resolution authorized the mayor to enter into a contract on May 16th, 2023 to the low bidder, the amount of $305,800, which was a McKenna Roofing. That contract was executed on May 19th, 2023. Under the terms of the contract, they were to begin work 10 days after notice to proceed in a complete work within 60 days of the notification of each assignment. That's what the contract says, each assignment. However, there was also built in there that if there's there's an unexcused delay, that the city could get liquidated damages about $500 a day. I'm not a roofer, but I did talk to Dan, the Director of Public Works. He indicated that the work kind of went on schedule. There was a significant delay because of rain. Work began in late June. There was significant delay in July because of the rain weekends. And normally what they do when they knew there was a weekend rainy forecast, I'm told they actually used Friday. That Friday, instead of a work day, they actually buttoned up the building. So to prevent leaks. There was also a significant delay because of materials. I believe Dan can probably tell us a little bit more about that. I think there was like a 6 or 8 week delay because of couldn't get the roofing materials in place. Right now, Dan can verify this, but the roof is now on. It is secure. What the contractor is waiting for is which is important for the city, is for the actual manufacturer to go out and inspect the roof, make sure that it was put on properly. And when they do give that inspection and that okay, that triggers the warranty so that we will make sure the roof is warranted and the contract required a 25-year warranty. So it may have taken a little longer than people anticipated, but there was a 60-day built into the contract with obviously reasonable delays. And obviously weather is one of those, materials is another. So Dan, I don't want to speak for Dan, but he seems to be very satisfied with the roof and didn't think that there was anything uncommercial about the way it went down.
No, not at all. I mean, the contractor that did the roof is a very reputable company. They've done, other projects in the city for us. One other thing I should add is that we did have an allowance in the contract when we went out to bid for the insulation below the old roof system. With leaks, that insulation was saturated with water in locations that, were leaking. But with a rubber roof, you could have, a break in the membrane on, that far side of the building, but the leak doesn't show up until it comes, finds its way to this side of the room. So there was a significant amount of work that had to go into removing and replacing insulation. So we didn't know, that was another unknown. So on top of delays with weather and lead times for the material, I mean, they did the project in a very reasonable amount of time. So I don't see any issues with.
And Chief, no leaks anymore. I know we're not finished with the warranty process, but we've had some rain regularly, still raining, and we're getting some more coming this weekend again. And
we haven't had a leak in several weeks, over a month, couple months, I would say at this point. Maybe about a month was the last one. And that, I believe, was when the wind blew the tarp that was covering the roof. But we haven't had any issues recently.
so both the DPW director, police chief, solicitor, you don't see any reason here where a penalty clause is in order.
Not based upon what the director indicated. And just so you know, the contract is still about almost just under $60,000 in money that we haven't paid to the contract yet. So we still hold back. We're holding back some
Yeah, I
money.
just wanted to make that clear, that because the question, when people were asking, so we probably won't pay everything until the final punch list.
We're not required to pay until we get the warranty and make sure everyone signs off on it. And that's a very important step because we want that warranty to last for 25 years. And my understanding is the roof is down, but they're putting.
So the main reason why this roof failed in particular, obviously, was close to the end of its useful life. We were still putting warranty claims in, just prior to the roof being replaced. But the main reason was that ice collected on the cell tower that is on the antenna system on the the far side of the building. So that ice, in a heavy wind would come down and puncture holes. So as part of this replacement, the thought when we designed this was to extend out this protective paver layer that would ultimately be an additional barrier to the roof. So when I put this out to bid, we made sure to extend that layer even further down the roof to avoid any further damage. So we're just waiting on those pavers to be installed, but until we get a sign off from the warranty company, we can't do anything. And that is a very important step because anything from now for the next 25 years will cost the city zero to fix.
Any other thoughts, comments? I think one thing we learned from this reinforces the fact that we need to be careful going forward with projects in general because that supply chain, you know, there's no guarantee. I mean, any of us in our homes, we can't even order a big ticket item and they're just not around. And you go to Home Depot and you say, I'd like this refrigerator. And they say, okay, well, 8 months if you're lucky. And sometimes it's more than that. So that's what we're facing, I think, in the city with everything. So we have to keep aware of that as we get into other projects that there's no guarantee. Yeah, buildings, everything. So thank you, Chief and Dan and Mr. Solicitor.
Thank you for the update.
Next item.
Mayor's Communication, September Finance Update, Director Malcolm Moore.
Make a motion to accept as read, unless anybody's got questions.
Don't have any questions. We do have, just to make public note of November 11th at 10 a.m., the Veterans Day ceremony. And that's always very moving ceremony. And you see ribbon cutting November 8th. So no other questions. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Next item, report of other city officials. Claims Committee.
Thank you, Council President. As you know, the council met as a claims committee in executive session prior to the open session. They approved the claims of Angela Martin in the amount of $140. They also approved a number of sewer abatements in the following amounts: Maria Jacobs, $336.66. Richard Silverstein in the amount of $560.98. Caroline Paiva in the amount of $578.599. And Fadi Asi in the amount of $446.26. And that completes my report.
Thank you. Councilman Lawson, anything new going on with the school committee? I think we have had a lot of discussion with them recently through the budget process, so we're kind of up to speed. But
I did
anything new
read,
from
they did start looking for the boiler for Myron J. So that's good. That's good. Other than that, I don't have any.
Yep. Sounds good. Thank you for staying on top of that. Letter D, Madam Clerk.
We don't have any resolutions for this evening or
Ordinances.
introduction of ordinances.
I would like to ask one gentleman to come forward before we entertain a motion to adjourn. And yeah, I don't want to embarrass him, but I'd like to introduce the community to our new city sergeant. Sergeant Snow, could you just come forward so we could get your handsome face in the camera? Tom Snow was a long time East Providence resident, and I don't want to make you appear too old, but it makes me appear old. I remember your days as a all-star Little League ball player, I think for one of my teams. And did you put in 30 years of Warwick Police Department? 32. And we're glad to have you come back to East Providence. Not an appointment of the council, but this was an appointment through administration. We haven't had a sergeant for a lot of certain meetings, but we're glad to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome.
You protect the council at all costs when these angry mobs come forward. Thank you. Good luck.
Motion.
No other business?
Motion to adjourn.
What's that? The other, we do have a presentation. We did not ask the family to come forward, but the council does have it's kind of something different. It's a message of sympathy that we're sending to the family of the superintendent of schools. And that, as you know, she lost her dad recently, Mr. Vince Bermuli. So the clerk has put together a nice citation. I have it here somewhere. Did you take it back? Oh, it's in the office. Okay, so we're going to deliver it. And they just went through the services, funeral this week, and I didn't think, we'd want to get them to come out here. So thank you all for signing that, and the clerk for putting it together. And we'll get that delivered to them. With that, if there's nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion by Councilman Rego, seconded by Councilwoman Souza to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
See you in a month.
The ayes have it. Another month?